Hi, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distanced, but we're technically connected. We're so excited as this is our 6th episode of joining you today from Cleveland. And this is our capability of reaching out to you every Friday to talk about construction trends, industry challenges, and just have that time with all of you. I am not here alone, as I have my co-host.
I am Paul Hoogenboom. I'm the president of the Tremco Construction Products Group. Marcy, a fine group of companies and brands all over the world.
Yes. It is so fortunate to be able to represent so many brands, products, systems, and people every single Friday.
Yeah, I think we have topics for years to come.
We do. We were just talking about that, how we won't run out of things to talk about. Yeah. That's for sure. So we're very excited about this week in particular. Paul, I'm in a very good mood today. You know why?
It's not raining.
It's not raining.
It's the first time we were 5-0 if rain counts as a win.
Exactly. So
now we're 1 day of sunshine and 5 days of rain.
That's how easy it makes me happy. The other reason I'm happy is because of our topic today.
Yeah, well, I think we both love testing.
Yes.
And for me, I think, I love product development, but testing is the bedrock of everything, because otherwise it's just opinions.
Yes, exactly. I think, and I've had many conversations like this, is we can theorize, we can do calculations, but when we can show a customer what that means when they apply a product through a test, right, it really is
both
a lot.
Live and empirically, right?
Yes.
So much of testing is inferred performance. Mm-hmm. We're after the actual data.
Exactly. So if you are just now joining us for the first time, as I mentioned, this is our 6th broadcast. You may wonder, where are these other broadcasts at? They're on our Tremco Sealants YouTube channel. You can just Google Tremco Live if you're interested in looking at past episodes. Once again, we're so excited to talk about testing today. And as Paul mentioned, this is just one part, or actually 2 parts of testing that we're going to talk about out of many different types of testing that we can do and we do on a regular basis at Tremco. So we'll have a few things we wanted to talk to everybody about today in particular. When you look at testing, and our focus today is on our test facility, air barriers particularly, and then some pretty innovative technology and testing that we have for roofs as well. As always, I like to look at what's relevant in the industry, what we're seeing going on, and if you Google air barrier testing, or if you Google building enclosure testing, you're going to see a lot of information. Some are highlighted here on the slide today. Always like to give a shout out to our friends, building enclosure consultants and scientists, specifically Mark Howell had a post recently all about some testing that they're doing. This is ASTM C1601, which is water chamber testing. So just wanted to mention that, there's a lot of information that's out there. Our friends at Terracon, they also have some great information about testing. And of course, the Air Barrier Association of America has a document all about whole building airtightness testing. So lots of resources out there.
Yeah, and I think what's great about your shout out, Marcy, is all these individuals and so many others really give selflessly of their time. They share our commitment to getting after the data and getting at what we would call proven performance.
Exactly.
So
there's another mention here just about whole building airtightness testing, and I wanted to mention it specifically because it's in the Washington area, so the Pacific Northwest, and they're talking about air leakage testing of that whole building. And it says in the green circle there, it says a test above 0.4 CFM per square foot will not be accepted on buildings. So this is so important, right? And that is why we decided years ago to really focus on bringing that testing in-house so we could be a resource for that.
And I think what you're seeing there in Washington State, I think, Marcy, that's our dream, because I think so many products say we hit a performance target, but of course that's just in an isolated test. That's not out on a building. And I think in our perfect world one day, everything will be tested as it's being constructed and as it's finished. And then as a regular course of business, the same way that you check on your HVAC system once a year, make sure it's charged. We'd love to see buildings tested just on a recurring basis, because we all know things move, things change.
Yes.
Nothing stays the same. And then that regular testing would just mean, you know, as in going to the dentist every 6 months, an ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure.
Exactly. There was a presentation that I had a few months ago that I sat and listened to, and they talked all about how we treat our buildings. If we treated our cars that way, we wouldn't be driving anywhere, right?
That's true.
We'd be on the side of the road somewhere. So we definitely need to focus on how we can maintain our buildings for sure. Previous broadcasts talked a lot about HVAC systems and what you can do there. So once again, just to let you know, there is great information in the previous broadcast that we have done together. When we're looking at that whole building air tightness testing and what we can do, there's a lot of conversation around commissioning of buildings. That commissioning aspect is about commissioning and working on it throughout the whole life of that building, design phase, through construction, and even after it's in service, and really understanding that. So our very own Melissa Payne is giving a presentation on June 11th. Some information is up there for you to see. You can go to the Air Barrier Association of America's website for you to register for that. I highly recommend that, but there's a lot of other information for commissioning through the Conference and Energy Expo, so that's another resource for you. And then there's also a Building Enclosure Commissioning Collaborative group on LinkedIn. So just a couple other ways for you to stay on top of commissioning and understanding what that means for your buildings. I mentioned I was pretty excited today because we're talking about testing, and here is a blog that I did. Now, if you've watched our past broadcasts, we always like to bring in the Build Meets World blogs, and every week we featured a different representative at Tremco, and them sharing of their information in these short blogs. This one I'm very passionate about. I could talk to you about air barrier testing and just testing in general all day long. We won't do that for you today, but this is a blog thanks to Elise Bigley, who is our behind the scenes blog editor. She puts a lot of work into these, and she really made this great. And so there's a two-part series all about testing. As always, if you check out those blogs, if you have ideas of what you'd like to submit, if you want to be a guest blogger, if you have questions, reach out to our colleagues. We love to talk about building science and testing for sure.
Yeah, I think that's key, Marcy, is we love getting the input from everybody else out in the field about what they'd like to see us do,
right,
what they'd like to see us chase down, data that does it exist, can we get it, can we pursue it? So we'd love to get feedback.
And that's that challenge we put out there to you today. Challenge us, because we miss having that virtual or that actual interaction with you that we are now doing virtually. So Paul, I don't know if we mentioned this time around, I mean, we used to get together with customers about 5 times a month or more. So we definitely are missing that. And that's what this opportunity here is for us to engage. And speaking of that, here are some photos of what we used to do. So we used to, on a regular basis, bring customers through and give them exposure and let them know that this is their facility to do testing in.
Yeah, I think our challenge, and that's what we're trying to do here today and every week, is, you know, in person is always very, very powerful, and then you're in our facilities and you're able to see and touch and interact. But we're not going to be able to do that for a little while. You know, we're hoping the medical community makes ground on COVID-19 fast. But so that's really what we're trying to do now, is bring this to you. And these were usually often a day and a half. So now we're just trying to do it half hour at a time.
Yes.
End of the week, keep things a little light, and send you to the weekend with some good things to think about.
Exactly. So we're taking that tour and we're breaking it up into 30-minute segments and giving you a lot more information. But I have some good news today.
Okay.
It's virtual news. If you are watching and interested in having your own personal tour, whether it's you and your customers or your organization, if you'd like a tour of the test facility, we will begin scheduling those for virtual engagements in August. So we've got some work to do, and we're going to give you an inside view on what that is. But I think you'll be pretty excited about what's coming and why you'll want to secure your spot pretty quick so we can have that virtual engagement with you.
All right. Well, I'm awaiting being trained up, Marcy, on how we're going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So just to comment, I thought it'd be pretty interesting to let you know, Paul, that from June to February, we had over 350 customers through.
There's nothing I'd rather do. Like if, you know, what it is, 20, 21 business days in a month, if every day I was hosting customers with you.
Yeah, It'd be great.
That would be my favorite. That's my favorite. That's my favorite work.
We loved it too. We used to get disappointed when things got canceled,
Yeah.
you know, and that's where this all came from, was we were disappointed we weren't able to engage. So once again, I know a lot of you are sending in ideas, you're sending in different comments and feedback. Please keep that coming. We're gonna, as Paul said, we're gonna continue to see you every Friday. So let us know what you'd like to see, what you'd like to hear about. And I already know there's a few questions coming in. I know people are already wanting to secure their spots. So we'll give you more information about that on our follow-up email.
I think what's exciting then, what you told me is soon we'll be able to go live. I mean, we're live now,
Yeah.
but we're not like live at our facility. So to be able to be actually there,
Yes.
engaged in live mode, that's going to be pretty exciting.
We're working on that. There's you see Paul and I today, but there's a crew behind you that are working right now, and they're pretty excited about it too. But I know there's some things we got to figure out from sound and things like that. But we're definitely getting ready for
So
that.
we'll have baseball back, maybe some basketball.
Yeah.
And us.
And us. Exactly. It'll be great. From a perspective of what we also do at that facility, which we want you guys to think about as well, is testing. So Paul, we did about 50 different wall assemblies in that same time frame. So from June to February, we did about 50 different wall assemblies, different types of tests, different types of products, different types of conditions, connections, interaction, whether they're seismic joints, whether it's the roof to wall, or all the different things you can think of from a connection perspective. We have about 50 different that we did.
And part of being live, that was always fun for us, is a lot of those are all around you when we're meeting, and we can sort of point at different ones and tell different stories. So I guess we're going to figure out how to do that.
We're going to figure out how to do that for sure. Yeah,
these are outside, right?
Yes.
So this is in a pretty harsh climate zone, right?
Yes.
Cleveland, Ohio, right outside our facility. And this is material that's probably not often exposed for a long duration, right? It's intended to be covered, but at times you need to go to the elements months at a time. So this is us doing some assessment, right? I think of some of our products and some of the others out there.
Yeah, Dante, Miriam Petrie, and I did Dante and Marcy Love Building Science, a short segment on just this testing. So if you want to check that out, you can always email me, mtyler@tremcoinc.com. We'll give you that information. But as Paul mentioned, we did put these samples out, I believe it was August or July of last year. Some have survived, some haven't.
No.
It is a harsh condition in Cleveland from a weather perspective, with huge, temperature ranges throughout even a day.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting finding, and that's what makes it great that we have that capability of doing these things. We love to do training as well. So throughout this year, we've done about 18 different training events. So as we're able to start to engage again, we'll be reaching out. We've done Air Barrier Association of America training. We've done specific contractor training. We've done internal training. So we like that capability of bringing everybody in and surrounding them with all the different walls when we do that.
I think what's key with what you just said, though, is we are open to supporting everybody out there with their training if they'd like to engage us.
Exactly.
And if I just heard you right, we're figuring out how to do it virtual. So if you can't get here, we'll figure out how to do that classroom distanced.
And that helps us too. So if there's something specific you've always wanted to know, learn, or test, that's what we really want to know about. So a lot of what we are able to do each year is through industry collaborations. And that's been a key part of what we're doing. This is just some of the logos of individuals that make up that 350 guests that we had this year. So quite a few industry advocates out there, people we've worked with, people we've had that capability of having one-on-one time, having them ask us questions, and then bringing their industry challenges to us. With that, we always like to share the history of our facility and how we got there, right? So we started back in 2010 because we knew how important it was to be able to test for specific assemblies. So if you look at the tests that are out there, they usually call for your product, your system, to have an assembly test done. But we knew that one assembly test wouldn't be enough because you could change everything a part of that assembly. You might change the facade anchors. You might change the roof to wall connection. You might incorporate different types of accessories or different types of materials. And we wanted that capability of doing it. So we decided to invest and make our own facility where we could test, and it was in Ashland, Ohio. Problem was, it was just air. Just air, right? So we always like to say, no one's ever calling up saying my building's leaking air. We wanted to be able to validate for water too.
Well, it was only one direction, so you
And it
have
was
to,
only
you
one
have to
direction.
turn it around.
It was timely, yeah, it took a lot of time. We wanted to be able to do positive and negative pressure. We wanted to be able to do water. We were able to talk to our leadership team and get the ability to do that and closer to our office here. So instead of going to Ashland, we were able to do it very close to where Paul and I sit today. So it's about a 10-minute drive from here, being able to do that capability. It took off so well, being able to do samples, being able to do this type of testing, that we decided to have it expand and expand not only our wall, but our space for testing and our ability to do 2-story walls and 3 walls at a time if need be.
And most importantly, if you're in the roofing business, roof to wall.
Roof to wall, right. So we can test roof to wall, below grade to wall, window to wall.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting here thinking you've always wanted to validate something specific, that's exactly what we want to know. What is that industry challenge that you see, that you face, that you want to be able to understand how it performs? We've worked with a lot of different individuals. There's a lot of different white papers and testing documents that are out there. And really, this is where we like to have that one-on-one time with everybody. We want you to be feeling welcome to come and do your testing.
Yeah, and I think that's how you, if I remember from when we did it in person, your opening slide was always welcome home.
It was.
Because your message is, our house is your house, this is your facility going forward, we'll support you.
That's great. It was our first slide. And the other thing to think of, we have a lot of tests that we are considering right now that are going to be starting soon. And we are looking for industry advocates to sponsor them. And what I mean is, we want your opinion on the tests. We want you to take a look at our test assembly. We want you to look at our test layout, and we want your opinion. So if you're sitting out there thinking you want something specific tested, we may already have that kind of in the queue, and maybe you can be our industry collaborator on that project.
Yeah, and I think some other things we always like to talk about, Marcy, is 1, test to failure. So we're big on not just testing to standards, but we want to break it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I call what's the failure mode. So when it breaks, how did it break, right? And the thing that we're always looking for, that is ideally not a catastrophic break.
Right.
And what I mean by that, right, is if you pull on a thread on a sweater and the whole sweater comes off, we'd consider that a catastrophic failure.
That would be bad.
What we'd really like to be able to do as well, if you just pulled that thread out, right? How many times have we pulled on a thread in our carpet and said, that was a bad idea? And then we'll put in a new carpet.
Exactly.
So it's really testing to failure, pushing it to its very limits, and then seeing how it breaks.
Exactly.
And then most importantly in our product development, pursuing something that fails in an elegant mode. And so what that means, it's then easy to repair and easy to maintain.
Exactly.
So you don't get into run to failure and then replace and then repeat.
It's great because it gives us that ability to see that mode of failure, address it, and explain how it happened and how to fix it.
And so often that whole idea of mode of failure, I mean, everybody thinks standards. That's not nearly as interesting as saying, all right, let's fire this up and then let's break it. And let's see how it breaks and when it breaks.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of those tests, here is just 2 of the many that we can do. And this is actually a picture I took during one of our tours. So most of the time you're going to see the front of the wall when we show pictures or videos, and that is Paul and Dante on the back side of the wall. So what's great is you can actually attach your assembly. You can go to the upper level to check it out. You can go to the lower level. We can see where that leak may be happening on the inside of your wall, and it gives you that negative and positive pressure as well. So it's just a great way to be able to look at these products and see that mode of failure. And we love to go above and beyond. So if we're supposed to go at a 25 mile per hour wind, you've got to believe we're going to go way higher than that, because once that facade's up, we want to know what is that potential mode of failure so we can address it now in a lab and not have it happen.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, Marcy, the climate's just getting more volatile. We're seeing high wind conditions often, right? I guess the other day I saw that we're now seeing 100-year events almost every year. So you're like,
yeah.
All right, first of all, it's not a 100-year event anymore,
right?
But you're seeing extreme conditions where you didn't used to see them before. So even if the standard in that area doesn't call for it, it's still good to know what we can go up to.
Exactly. And even like a longer duration too. Early on, some of these tests, it was a 15-minute test, and we knew 15 minutes was never going to be long enough for a leak to even appear. It could be happening, but you may not even be able to visually see it. So we always go for that longer duration anyway. And having this capability and offering it to you it's there for you so that you really can understand what that detailing means long term for those high wind loads you're going to see on a couple stories up.
You mentioned wind. On the water side, I believe we put 8 inches of rain against that wall an hour, because really what we want is a continuous sheet of water.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty severe case, but we know if you don't get that continuous flow of water, then you're not getting a worst case example out. Again, if you just were to spray that wall straight at it, a lot of things might pass. When you get that sheet going down.
Yeah, you want that film, and that's why we go to that extreme with that, and that's part of the test method. It's great. We have gone up to 25 PSF. We can go up higher. It's mimicking 100 mile/hour wind directly on our materials and our systems. Now you could say, well, will that ever happen? There's going to be a facade protecting it. Will it actually be on it? But wouldn't you want to know that potential mode of failure anyway, so that you can do that? And that gives us that capability. This is one of those instances where we brought the wall, or the wall to the assembly versus the assembly to the wall, because it was very heavy. So Dante and crew figured out a way to make sure that we can test this one, even though we couldn't get it up.
That one's full of concrete, I think, Marcy.
It is. It's very heavy, which is why sloped to drain, we couldn't get it up to the wall appropriately. So very exciting stuff we're able to do. Lots of industry partners that we've been able to work with specifically this year. A consultant out of Philadelphia, DSS Philly, Arcadia for windows, PCL as a general contractor, 2 of our friends from the Concrete Association, so Clark Pacific and Wells Precast, Acrotech, a company out of Canada, and Rodenhouse, who makes fastening systems. So we collaboratively worked with all of those individuals this year on testing our products with their products and making a complete assembly. Not in every case. It was, for example, PCL, they wanted to be able to understand their assemblies that they're going to continue to build and how they're going to perform. So we let them build them, bring them to us, and then together we worked on the evaluation. So pretty exciting. And once again, a shout out to our sales reps, bringing us these collaborations and these industry partners. Keep them coming, and if you're watching and if this is getting you, I hope it is, getting you excited about something you've always wanted to test or look at, please contact us so we can work together on taking apart that industry challenge and figuring out a solution. This is one I always like to bring up, because this is where we were having a discussion with the consultant and they were uncomfortable and had some performance questions related to our materials. So Dante worked specifically with Rich Block, our sales rep on the West Coast, and said, how can we help you out? And this was a design group, the Smith Group out of Michigan. And we said, how can we give you confidence in this system? We know there's some unique situations because it's seismic, right? And how were our products going to perform? We worked together on how to put that assembly together. Once again, not according to any exact test method, but trying to mimic what experience and what kind of exposure these materials would get out in the field. And in this case, a seismic drift joint, as well as the capability of moving with all the air pressures that we're putting on it. So freely moving so that we can see how well those products are going to be able to move in a seismic situation.
And I think in this case, there's a bit of a funny story that we can't tell as well as Dante does.
No, right.
But how we tested it much further than we ever thought. So
yeah,
I believe it's been tested for the big one.
It's tested for the big one, right? I think the bracing didn't work exactly right, so it released completely, and so we had a much bigger movement than we had anticipated, and it all worked. And it's great because I was able to actually go out and check out this project. So here was your concept, and I was able to travel around in September with Rich Block to go to the reality. So it's always great to see how these come together. We have another great example of how we all came together, the Arlington, Virginia Securec Export 430 project. That picture of all those people is everyone involved on that project, coming to Cleveland to test all their facade anchors. And it was such a great day. They came in the morning, they left by 3 o'clock. We all learned something, and we had a really great, successful project with them.
I think that's a great slide right there, Marcy, about we believe a best practice is to do this for really any significant project.
Yeah.
Why not come spend a day or two with us?
Yeah.
Prove out the things that might be of concern, or you're just wondering about, or you just want to say, hey, did I get that sequence of installation right?
Right.
We can work with you to do that. We, of course, do the 3D animations for you that you can bring on the job site. But we think this is a best practice. And we're hoping over time to have more people comfortable saying, hey, before I go build it, let's go hang out with Tremco for a couple of days.
Exactly.
And let's make sure we got everything tied up.
And we were able to do that for the West Coast project virtually, even back then.
Yeah.
And this East Coast project, it was a little easier for them to come in.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point too, is that this was before COVID-19.
Yeah.
But that seismic project you just referenced, that was done virtually, because I think it was Christmas Eve. And so the ability for, you don't have to come here for us to engage and do all that testing for you and interact with you.
Yeah, we can work virtually, share information, and set it all up. This there's a picture here of the water cascading down. I always think that's a good amount of water, showing the water coming down. So that's what we're talking about. There's a significant amount of water on that face, and you're pulling that positive and negative pressure. So we're really putting these connections to a challenge.
And that's a good example, that one there. Marcy, there's probably 10 different ways those fasteners get put up on a wall like that today. And we know there's probably only a couple ways that are probably the best.
Right.
And it's interesting whenever, I kind of sit through one of these and I learn from you to say, yeah, there's so many ways that are considered, quote, okay, but there probably are only a handful that are really the high performers.
Well, we like to talk about that with our customers, because just like that, there's many ways it can be done, but how many points of concern are there, right? How many times are you going to touch it? How many chances of maybe things not going right? So that's why I always like to talk through how many points of concern are there with each of them, and then figure out what is that best route to limit those points of concern so that it's much easier and reproducible on the project.
And do it before you build.
Exactly. So we took you through the whole path of what's going on there at the facility. We're really excited about what is coming next, and we've been talking about it. We've featured it. Paul, I know many conversations with you about what is coming, and it is our thermal chamber. And at this point, a surprise guest, Dante, will be joining us.
Huh.
Dante, are you there?
I'm here. Hope you guys can hear me well. So I'm standing here in the lab. Right now, I'm the only person in the room of 3,600 square feet. That's why I'm not wearing my mask right now, but when we're on the Tremco premises, we got to make sure that we're following our safe protocols, wearing our masks and safety gear. So I'm standing where last time you were here, if you've been here before, was a lot of stuff, building materials, wall samples, things that we were getting ready to test, things that we have tested. But it's a pretty big open space right now because we're getting our thermal chamber where we're going to be able to look at the heat transfer through that wall system, which is great since now we're collaborating and working with our partner companies in Endura and Drive It, looking at the thermal resistance of that type of wall system. You can see the drain that's broken in the floor. On Monday or Tuesday, we're getting a new concrete coating system that's going to be on the floor, so it's going to look super awesome.
So you're pretty excited about that shiny new piece of equipment you're getting.
Yeah, it's shinier than my bald head in the video.
Couple of questions coming in about that. Yeah, what they want to know what you shined up your head with today? No, I'm just kidding. But we love the fact that this is on its way. We met the other day to talk through ideas, and this is where we're reaching out to everyone who's watching today. If you've ever wanted to understand how you can take your woofy model and turn it into somewhat a little more real life, send us your challenge now so we can start talking about tested assemblies in that thermal chamber. We can do air and water leakage testing in there as well, but then we can also look at that thermal resistivity of that entire assembly. Paul mentioned earlier that when we bring people through the facility, the best part of it, after I get done chatting for quite some time, is turning it over to Dante where he can actually show the test in action. So what do we got there, Dante?
So I hope you guys can hear me pretty well. So behind me, we have the test actually running. I've turned 180 degrees off the same podium, where we are putting a negative pressure, trying to pull any water on the through that panel, through any fish mouths or leaks or any voids in the system. So we have this particular one. We have an expansion joint at the top where we have our ProGlaze ETA, and then we have what some people do with peel and sticks as far as expansion joints go. So we're in the process of testing this one out right now, and we're going to share the results with everybody when the results are final.
So pretty exciting. That was submitted by a sales rep. In conversations I've had with consultants, and some of you may be watching today, they can't wait to take a look at those results and test some iterations that they've always been curious about. So we're definitely excited about that capability. Dante, I know we're going to check back in with you in a few minutes. So we'll see you in a few minutes. So part of the tour has always been going from looking at the test wall to then going to see what else we have, which is what we like to call Roof Tech 2.0, right adjacent to where the test facility is.
Yeah, and Roof Tech 2.0, Marcy, I always start off with a quick story. Many years ago, I guess it's about 6 now, we were telling a roof restoration education with a major education institution. And then they came back and said, at that time, they said, well, we're not allowed to clean our roofs, and because they're in an EPA non-attainment zone. So that's Roof Tech 1.0, which is how we clean our roofs. And at the very end of that meeting, when we were out on the West Coast with our buddies getting all that project fired up, we said, well, what else do you do? And out of that came Roof Tech 2.0.
2.0.
So I think you got a little video with us, Marcy, and we'll explain what 2.0 is. And by the way, before you click, 2.0 means there's going to be a 3.0.
I've learned that with you.
Yeah, but that's for another day.
Yes. Okay, let's take a look at this.
All right, so we got ourselves a hospital here. Looks like that roof's pretty banged up. And we got an operating room underneath. So again, a typical re-roofing project in this type of scenario, you're probably not going to be able to work underneath there. A lot of debris. Right. Even in a best case scenario, you got to put up what they call catchment or things that capture all that. But certainly for a sensitive environment like that, you know, we've come to learn whether it's food, pharmaceutical, medical, high-tech manufacturing, they really cannot work underneath in those very sensitive environments when re-roofing is going on. So we did our normal thermal imaging, and out of that thermal imaging, we could see where a wet area was, and you can see that's gridded out. I always like to stop here because you see it says base coat is applied. So, you know, Marcy, if I came to you and said, first of all, I said, Marcy, you don't got to tear off that roof anymore and go through all that disruption. We're going to be able to restore that for you. You know, in the roofing world, that's long been a dream. So, of course, you'll be in a bit of disbelief. Yeah. And, of course, your first thought is, well, then, Paul, you're going to dry it out first. And I always like to stop here because that's how we started, and we learned that was the wrong idea. So, Marcy, if you and I got a leaky boat, yep, and we're going to fix it, we first better stop the water from coming in. So, yep, so really getting that base coat on first before we then go dry the roof out. That was a very painful lesson.
Oh, because otherwise it could just keep getting wet.
It just keeps getting wet, and that's why later on you see we put a weather station on, because we realized when we're drying out a roof, it's just dehumidification 101, right? Same way that water gets in, it gets out. And you're pulling a slightly negative vacuum. So when you're pulling a negative vacuum on something that's leaky, it just pulls more in. As in most learnings, they're obvious with 2020 hindsight. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Let's go.
By the way, from this point on, this is nothing new. This is all out of the building drying out industry that an RPM sister company has been involved in for the last 50 years. They've really been at the very creation of it. This is all very industry standard equipment. It's always been used, Marcy, throughout the whole rest of the building, remember I told you our story about Roof Tech 1.0?
Yep.
So when we were out there talking about how to actually clean a roof, it turns out that they're really at the industry center of how you dry out buildings when they get flooded, they go through hurricane events, things of that nature. They just never knew that the roof assembly got wet. And so out of that came Roof Tech 2.0. And they're like, heck, we can, this is pretty normal for us to just get another substrate and another set of assemblies and dry that out. So this is all industry standard equipment. None of this has been innovated. Been around forever.
Just being used on the roof.
Just, yep, who knew?
Okay, so we're gonna go a little further here looking at this.
First, we gotta plug it in. Same way that you would in any sort of normal building out drying situation, Marcy. Just gotta draw the air through, so you're putting the vents in. And then of course you're going to put the vacuum inserts in to draw the air through. Again, this is all drying out 101, pretty basic stuff.
Yep.
Our little weather station. A couple of years from now, it probably won't be spooked anymore. We won't have to put those on. These sensors are pretty cool because the way buildings are dried out, Marcy, is all that equipment censored. It all just talks to the sky, and when the building is dried out to the right point, the insurance industry releases the funds, and then the building gets remediated. So that's exact same sensor technology that the insurance industry uses embedded in our roof. The cool thing is those sensors are left behind, and they'll be reading the roof for probably at least the next 20 years. So it'll be the only roof you have that'll actually be monitored nonstop for being in a dry condition.
And you might not have seen it because it was a bit choppy, but it shows the sensors in there coded over and left behind.
Yeah, so those are wireless and they're sitting there on long life lithium batteries and less than 1% failure over 20 years.
We had Chris Mathis from Mathis Consulting speak to our company, and he talked about if your outlet could tell you how much energy you were wasting when you didn't turn it off, and now your building's going to tell you.
Yeah.
It's going to get wet. And
again, nothing new. It's been in this equipment that typically dries out building. These exact sensors are in there because they're just reading the air intake.
Right.
And at some point when it gets below a certain RH, they're like, good to go, building's dried out. That's really all we're doing here. Yeah. And then at this point, we're drying out. It's all unattended. We go online every day. We can see where every sensor is. And once we see them all below the fully dried out situation, then all we got to do is take our equipment off. It takes us about a day, get our top coat on, and we're good to go. So it's what I call a lights out operation.
That's great. Yeah. Your building's letting you know when it's ready to be coated over. That's pretty incredible. I know this was the end of our video, so now we're going to go live into the Roof Tech 2.0 facility and check back in with Dante.
Hi everyone. We're over here in the Roof Tech 2.0 lab. And you can see here where we have 3 different bays where we'll build the roof systems and we'll get them all wet and we'll try and dry them out. We'll figure out how long that takes. Way down at the end, you can see that we have our uplift chamber where we'll pull that negative pressure. So we have on this roof right here all instrumented with different hose nozzles and different types of sensors to figure out how wet it is and how long it takes to dry out. And then we test these things and move the uplift chamber over whatever roof. The second bay you can see is actually filled with water where we have a roof system in there. We have a bunch of weight concrete pails sitting on it trying to saturate it, and we'll figure out how long that takes to dry.
So for everybody that's out there watching, this got built because in the roofing industry, it's still considered, perhaps not possible to dry things out, even though the rest of the buildings have been getting dried out for many, many years. So these are 3 chambers that really allow you to bring an assembly, or you tell us what the assembly is for your customer. We build it, we flood it, and then we dry it out for you. And then the gold standard in roofing is the wind uplift test that says that whole assembly is still fully intact.
Wow. So I think you've done it for a couple buildings where they just, like you said, they tell you exactly what the roof is constructed of. Yeah. You built it and they can come see it.
Yeah, we flood it for 2 weeks just so it's fully saturated, then we dry it out. And then at the very end, we always do a little test. Yeah. So we hand out these 2 samples, and one is virgin material, one's fully flooded, and we ask them if they can tell the difference. And usually it's pretty hit or miss. And the key reason is most of these materials were made from a slurry. So they're getting wetted out like they were in the first place, then they're getting dried out and they go to very much an as-new structural condition.
So really people are just guessing because there's not any indication. You can't tell.
I get it wrong every time. I can't remember.
Well, that's great. So once again, we miss having everyone come through our facility. We love to show you what we're currently working on. We're excited. We're going to check back in to show you what's coming next. But I know Paul challenged us to say, what is next? What do we want to see next? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I know you guys saw the room where it looks pretty empty right now, but we're going to be taking up roughly 50% of the floor space with that chamber. So next, we want to be able to have a world-class construction and training and presentation facility. We want to expand the building out further into our empty parking lot so we can add even more cooler equipment.
We need space, Paul.
All right, well, it's game on. Let's get your chamber done, and Dante, you, me, and Marcy can sit down and figure it out.
That's awesome.
That's exciting.
Thanks, Dante. So Paul, a couple friends in the industry knew that you were going to ask that what's next, and they had a bunch of ideas too.
Well, what do they got?
So our friends at FENX are doing some flood testing down in Florida, and they are building a mobile chamber. So it's on a semi truck where they can actually do flood testing and come to you with this on the road chamber. Yeah. So they want to do some joint testing with us related to flood testing. We are a waterproofing company, right? We'd love to be able to look at flood testing and how it's done with different types of equipment. There's electronic devices that we use to detect for leak detection without having to flood. We want to look into that. I know our friends in the waterproofing tech group would love their own little area to test in for hydrostatic head, abrasion resistance. So lots of ideas out there.
Right. So I'm feeling better. I thought we had maybe reached the end of the road.
No,
you guys were out of ideas.
Not out of ideas. We even have more than that, but we'll keep you guessing for the rest.
And certainly for anybody watching us today, if there are things that you've always wished or hoped would be out there that you think would be really valuable in helping us build better buildings, let us know.
Yes, absolutely. So Paul, next week,
what are we doing?
Retrofit the wall.
Wow, I like that. Restoration of a wall?
Yes. Nice. We're going to do a whole restoration series. We're going to start focusing on the wall, then we'll go to the parking garage, then we'll go to the roof. We're also looking at a variety of case studies. We're working with reps and their customers. So if you have any ideas, you're going to send them directly to me, mtyler@tremcoinc.com. We love your feedback. We know we had lots of questions that came in today that we weren't able to get to. We'll get to those as well. I'm even thinking about perhaps doing an FAQ session one of these times where people can just kind of come on and ask those questions to Paul and I about the broadcast we've been sharing. But we're so excited about having this interaction each and every Friday. I'm really appreciative, Paul, of you hanging out with me Friday afternoon. I know we're a little over on our time today, but I can talk about testing. I know you could too for many more hours.
But we're going to see you on our next podcast.
Yes. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.